All right, hello. Welcome. Josh Thomas, mortgage broker here in Utah. I'm going to go over some thoughts today on. So there's what's an annual review and why would you do an annual review with a mortgage guy? That might be a little bit weird for some folks. And I'm also going to talk a little bit about loans for people whose income. I'm not going to call it gig work. I'm going to talk it. I'm going to speak like professional athletes. So I'm going to talk a little bit about income for that type of income where it's kind of on and off. It's contract. It tends to be big money when it comes through, but it may not be something that's long-term sustainable, or not necessarily sustainable, but that the banks will view as stable. So what if my income's kind of like a professional athlete's, or should I? What's an annual review, and why would I do that with my mortgage lender? And so, frankly, a lot of mortgage lenders don't actually offer annual reviews. I do. I offer them for my clients. So I'm going to talk a little bit about them today, but I just wanted to give something quick today because I was out of town last week. I was on a vacation with my family, went to the island of Roatan, and I don't know if anyone listening to this has been to Roatan or ever heard of it. I had never heard of it until we went on a cruise in the Caribbean, and that was one of the stops. And frankly, kind of almost missed the boat. Roatan is one of the most amazing places I've ever been. We've been to Hawaii and Cancun and Puerto Vallarta and a bunch of other awesome places in North America, around North America. And this isn't a vacation blog, but I loved it. So I'm going to share a little bit more about it. If you like snorkeling, ever have done snorkeling, Roatan is an amazing place to be. It's better than any snorkeling I've done anywhere in Hawaii. And there's a bunch I've done out there, but they are along, I think they call it the Mesoamerican Reef, which is the second largest reef in the world. It runs along or the north edge of South America, I guess. Anyway, it's incredible. I've never seen that much coral. I've never seen that much variety in coral, that size of coral. Just incredible. And I went into this trip thinking, hey, we're going to do, like, all the activities seem to center around snorkeling and scuba. And man, I should show you one of the dive maps. So here's the island. It's 36 miles long. They showed a little picture on one of the dive maps of this chunk of the island that's maybe a couple miles long. And there was nothing. There were just like site after site after site after site of all these different dive spots. Like they literally probably had over 100 dive spots on that little tiny map of just the last couple miles of that island. And I did a couple of them, and it's just, there's so much life under the ocean. I mean, stingrays, nurse sharks. We got to see octopus. I guess it's, what is it, octopi or octopuses? I don't know. Anyway, five, and stingrays. I don't remember how many, but a whole bunch. We got some that were just ginormous, and a couple that were tiny. And nurse sharks were awesome. A little intimidating, even though they're basically harmless to humans. They're still sharks. They're still kind of big. Anyway, but yeah, so because we were on that trip last week, wanted to just get something out here for this. And I've had a couple conversations today that I thought were really interesting for most. So first, let's talk about that annual review. Does a mortgage lender that you've ever worked with offer you an annual review? Why the crap would you do one? So if you've ever used a financial advisor, you're most likely used to getting an annual review with them. That's a pretty normal practice for financial advisors. I don't know why people don't do them more often with mortgage people, but my whole career I've spent on this soapbox where I feel like people have all these different financial things. So they'll have their insurance broker, they'll have their CPA, maybe they'll have a financial advisor, maybe not. Maybe they have their 401k. Did I say taxes already? They have all these different things, their mortgage and ones, and they're all like these separate parts of their lives, right? And they don't involve them all together. But I've always told people that one of the best things you could ever do is throw like an annual barbecue or something and bring your CPA, invite your mortgage planner, invite your realtor, invite your insurance broker, invite your financial advisor. If you have an estate planner, just have them all talking on your behalf. I've never attended a family barbecue, anything like that. No one's ever invited me to that. But I've told people that for years, decades. And the idea is that all these people that work for you are working together on your behalf and giving some ideas. Best scenario I've ever done, I've never done that myself either. The best scenario I ever did is I had a three-way phone call with my CPA and an estate planner at one point. And I, of course, being in the mortgage space. And so it was just a really interesting phone call to listen to the two as they coordinated my needs for what I was looking at doing. And it was cool because they were kind of masterminding on my behalf. So I heavily encourage you to bring them all under the same umbrella, not necessarily the same people, but bring the people together on your behalf. Get them talking, go back and forth between them and ask the questions so that you can get the very biggest bang for the buck. But going specifically into the mortgage space, an annual review, this call that we had today, it's for a client who purchased with us, I think 6 years ago. And they've been doing annual reviews with me every year. So that's super good. But in doing so, they, we uncovered, they have a 3.625 interest rate, so a great rate. And I have the questions that I ask when I go on these annual reviews. One of them is, are you paying anything extra on your mortgage? And a little bit backstory before I tell you her answer. Again, we've been doing this for 6 years. I have long stood on this stance that I don't believe anyone should ever pay anything extra on their mortgage ever. I really don't. There's a lot of backstory to that. If you've seen any of my other videos, you might understand why I might say that. But in her case, it's like with an exclamation point, like a giant 25 exclamation points, all capital letters. She should not do that. She has a 3.625 interest rate. So, and it's still a tax favored loan. It's a possibility that they're taking tax benefits as a result of that. So it may be even less than 3.6, but let's just say it's 3.6. That means every time she makes an extra payment on her mortgage, her benefit for making that extra principal payment is that she's not paying 3.625% rate on that. Well, same conversation a little bit further down. We're talking about their investments, and they have a money market account. They actively have a money market account. I don't think they're getting much on it, maybe 2%. I told her she could probably shop around a little bit better. My money market account, I'm getting 3.5%, maybe 3.7. I can't quite remember. It was 4.5 at one point, but of course the rates have come down a little bit. So I was telling her, if you could, so you're first off, you have this money market account and you're getting almost the same level of investment as what you'd be saving on your mortgage. But the difference is the money market is a compounded interest, which means any money you earn in interest in there becomes principal, and then you earn interest on that. And so it compounds on itself. And so even if the rates were identical and she goes out 10 years, but all the extra monthly payment, instead of putting into her mortgage, she just put into her money market. 10 years from now, if you take both of those out, she would be further ahead on the money market than she would be if she put it into the mortgage. And that's just with a money market. What if she was actively investing? Now, she does have a 401k. Most likely that 401k is getting a better rate of return than 3.625. And she is actually overfunding it. So we talked about that as well. Now, as a mortgage guy, I can't make financial investments about her 401, or I can't give financial investment advice about her 401k, but I definitely steered her back to a financial planner that she's worked with in the past to have that conversation, who can advise her properly. But the biggest thing for me is I referred a lot of people to a book, The Simple Path to Wealth. Simple Path to Wealth by J.L. Collins is an interesting book. If you haven't read it, feel free to check into it. No affiliation between me and him, just like he had no affiliation between him and the main investment that he was suggesting in that book. So he doesn't know anything about my little video here that I'm mentioning him, but I like his book because he goes through a ton of depth and then constantly backs out. So he'll go drill down on details. So some detailed people like me, they really like that. And then he'll back out and he's like, okay, but basic, simple principles are this. So if you don't understand anything I just said, that's fine. Do you understand this? And it's just something really simple and basic. But his principle is that a lot of people don't really need anything super fancy. The S&P 500 is the 500 biggest publicly traded companies in the United States, and they are actively, their shares, their stock prices are actively going up and down. But if you invested simply across the S&P 500, there's always some companies doing really well, and there's always some companies doing very bad. And as those businesses may go out of business, then new companies come in. But if you just stay invested in all S&P 500, then the good and the bad will kind of outweigh themselves, and the overall average rate of return of the stock market itself would become your average rate of return. And he specifically suggests, I think it's VTSAX in that book, and it is the stock ticker name, I believe. And if you go do some research on that, you're going to see its average rate of returns up there, 9-10% or something like that over the last 20 years, 30 years, and the S&P 500 going back 40 years is also still near that. I think it's 9%. So that means all the lost markets, it's still average, it still rebounds, and its average rate of return is decent. So how does this matter to this conversation? Well, this young lady who I'm doing an annual review for, if she's looking at where she could be putting her money, instead of putting it into her house and paying and saving 3.6%, if she just wanted to invest in this mutual fund, for example, or a mutual fund similar to it, then she would be looking at a similar rate of return, maybe 9%, maybe 7%, as long as it's better or the same or better than 3.625, she's going to come out ahead, especially where it's compounded interest. So that's essentially my main thing. Is if she doesn't know how to invest, then that's a way that she can start learning how. But we're all human and we have the ability to learn and grow. So maybe I'm not actively investing today, and me paying extra money into my mortgage and saving 3.6%, maybe that's a good investment for me. But what I'm going to tell you is put yourself to learning. Don't just roll over and be a wimp. I mean, you are smart, you are human, you have a brain. Learn, read, because you don't have to stay at this tiny little knowledge chunk that you have now, where 3.6% is the best you can do. I mean, there's CDs that offer more than 3.6% right now, and so take advantage of them. But honestly, learn what you need to learn about mutual funds or whatever else is out there that you want to learn about, so that you can safely invest in those and understand. If she did invest in this mutual fund or the S&P 500 in some way or shape or form, there are moments that it goes down, right? If this is 2008, 2009, it crashed, right? It was a huge correction. And even in other times more recent, it's fallen at times, and it does. So this is where the intelligence comes in. This is where you need to learn, and why you have a financial advisor, for example, is they're going to help you understand that if you need this money in the next 12 months or even the next 36 months, it may not be the best place to put it, because it depends on how the market performs. And there's safer, decent investments out there that maybe you should consider. But if these guys, this client I was talking to today, they're putting the money away for 10 years, minimum 10 years, it will have a chance. Even if it crashed anytime in the near future, I told her, you'll invest, then it crashes, and then you cry, but you don't change anything. The money managers are all doing their job, and they're rebalancing and restructuring your investment. But as the years go by, it starts to rebound. And not only will you end up in the end coming out with all the same money again, but you'll have come out ahead. You'll have earned interest. And so that's kind of the point. So it's not like, here's your investment you need to do, never pay extra on your mortgage. It's not that at all. It's the idea of paying extra on your mortgage it's just not a very profitable idea. Maybe you got a 6% mortgage today. Well, 6% is higher rate. So if I prepay that by paying extra on my principal, yes, I'm locking in a 6% savings. Cool. But it's still a simple interest rate. You're still only saving the interest. You're never earning interest on the interest. So if you got a 6% mortgage, yes, it takes a little extra effort, because then your investments need to be even better than hers do, because she's only paying 3.6. So her investments don't have to be amazing out of the park in order to outperform her mortgage. If you got a 6% rate or higher, yours do. But put yourself to learning, do the homework, practice, check it into it. Before I ever invested in anything, I did it on paper. Personally, I was investing in paper stocks for a little while before I started investing in the actual stocks. When I did invest in the actual stocks, it performed as expected. I made money, so that was cool. And then when I invested in real estate, it was the same thing. I had done it on paper beforehand and was kind of looking and watching, and that's how it turned out. So have I made mistakes? Yes, every investor will. But anyway, so long story short, I just had that great conversation with her earlier today and thought this would be a really great conversation to share with you. The next one was pro athletes, or anybody that has income that's a little bit like that. So I get a phone call from a client, or a would-be client that wants to buy, but as a pro athlete, their income is not what you'd call stable. If I got a job and I've been on that job for 10 years and I've made $100,000 a year for 10 years or ish, right? And my paychecks are currently structured at $100,000 a year. It's foreseeable future. I'm going to probably make $100,000 a year for the next couple of years, right? And that's why the mortgage companies and the mortgage rules, Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, FHA, that's why they're going to be happy to give you that loan. But if you made a bunch of money last year and you're under contract to make a bunch of money this year, but it's irregular money, you don't get it every single month, you kind of get it all at once, or maybe just over the season. And then there's no guarantee you're going to get it in 2 years. Maybe you'll get more, maybe a new contract will come along. How does that work? And so I just kind of wanted to share this. We're actively working on this. I might share more next week or whatever, but we have, so there's some loans that I just kind of wanted to introduce you to, because none of the conforming loans necessarily like this type of income unless you kind of really get into some nitty gritty. But let's just step back and talk about some different loan options we got. So somebody that wants to invest in real estate while they're here, while they're an athlete, here in Utah, what options do they have? Well, number one, if it's owner occupied, I can do 20% down, and the interest rate's going to end up being in the 8s. I think it's high 8s typically, which may sound crazy for a lot of folks, but guys, I don't ask for job information at all. You could be unemployed. If you got that 20% down, this loan will work for you. You do need a decent credit score, but not amazing, just decent, kind of a B- or higher, and you're going to be fine. You're going to be able to qualify. So that's one option. And I told this professional athlete that's the default. And then what I'm going to do is be looking for alternative options besides that, something better. And so another option we have, looks like we're going to be able to do 10% down. Interest rate should be, we probably can get the interest rate down into the 6s, but for sure it won't be any higher than 7.5. It just kind of depends on the closing costs that they want to structure. So there's another option. If we want to not do it as owner occupied at all, we're going to go back to 20% down, but I have a 6.49% rate available, where again, there's no income shown at all. It's strictly based on the cash flow of the investment. So whatever cash flow we expect on that property, we can actually run that. That's the income. And so again, 20% down, we use the rental income, and that's the whole of it. Credit score plays a major role in that one. So the better the credit, the better the rate. 6.49 would be assuming a 780 credit score. So not sure if you knew we had loan options for irregular pay. Another one is if you're like NFL, NBA, NHL type of level and you're making millions, but you're trying not to spend millions. In those cases, we can also do something called asset depletion or asset qualifier. They're very, very similar, but basically the income is created from the asset. I've talked about that recently in the last few months, so feel free to check one of the old videos. But asset depletion, asset qualifier, we basically take, let's say you got $2 million, and we'll just divide that $2 million over a certain time frame, say 7 years as an example. And that, whatever that number equates to, that's your income. And that income is monthly income that we use to help you qualify to buy the house. Or asset qualifier is very similar. What's the monthly payment going to be on this house times 360? And if you have enough assets to pay that, then you're done. That's it. That's all you need. Rates on those, so minimum down payments and rates. Minimum down payments are going to be 10%. I actually have some asset depletion that's only 3% down, but usually we can't make it work. It usually won't work because it doesn't qualify very much income. That's through Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. But otherwise, it's going to be 10% down minimum, and then the interest rate's usually somewhere, plus or minus 7%. So maybe as low as a 6.5, maybe as high as a 7.5. But yeah, so lots of options, I guess, is my main point. Why I wanted to share it is, even if your income is kind of wild, or somebody whose income's kind of wild, we got some great resources for you. Give us a call, let us know. As always, please put your comments down in the box. I'm going to add some music to this today. Somebody in recent video was kind enough to tell us that they needed some music. So I'm going to do my best not to overwhelm what I'm saying with the music, so it won't be too loud in the background. But hopefully it makes it a little bit funner to listen to. And I know what you mean, man. Listening to somebody talk to me, it's like a good way to go to sleep sometimes. So, but hopefully that was good, helpful, useful information. Any questions you got that may have nothing to do with what I'm talking about, but just wanted me to kind of weigh in on it, hear what I have to say, then let me know, and we'll go from there. So take care. Have a great day.